There are many different ways to edit a portrait in Photoshop. Here's one good way. So here's a portrait that I took last month, and it looks pretty good, but there's definitely issues with it. First of all, we want to get rid of anything in the photograph that we don't want, like the jacket here. So we're going to first of all crop it to the way that we would like. I'm going to bring a little bit of the background down so that notice the rule of thirds is lined up on her eyes. You don't have to do that, but it does work well compositionally. And now we're going to go into the filter, camera raw filter. And this brings up all kinds of wonderful sliders. First of all, portraits oftentimes look good warmed up, so I'm just moving the slider over towards the yellow. And you know, this almost looks like a vintage photograph, so you could do special effects, but subtle movements on these sliders most usually works well. So I'm going to make it a little bit warmer. See if we want to go a little bit magenta, probably not, maybe just a touch. Overall exposure, try moving to the right and to the left. I think it actually could be slightly darker, so I'm going to move it down just a hair. By the way, if you double tap these little arrows, it'll bring it back to 0 to sort of reset. So I'm just going to bring this down just a hair. And then play around with all of these different sliders. You know, see what you like. A little bit of contrast might be nice. These are wonderful because this just affects the highlights. You know, I could deepen the shadows a little bit. Well, of course, I don't want to give her eyes and her face too much shadow, so I'll probably leave that as it is. Every photo is going to be a little bit different, but play around with these sliders and see what you like. Clarity, I have found, is often pretty nice, although you want to keep an eye on skin texture. If you wanted to soften it, you could. This gives it sort of that very, very, I think, overly soft look to portraits, but you might want to soften it slightly, depending. And then if it is on a hazy day, dehaze works really, really well. I think this photo doesn't. You could increase the vibrance slightly. Saturation increases the saturation of all colors. Vibrance is actually particularly made for portraits, so you can increase the vibrance of the background and the surrounding without really affecting skin tones, which is really nice. The other thing I want to do is go to, I think it's under Effects, and there's vignetting. Sometimes a little bit of a vignette can look really nice, and a vignette is darkening or lightening the edges. So I don't really like the white vignette look, but I'm just going to darken just a hair there. And I can see the before and after by hitting this little icon down here. So there's before, there's after. I think that looks much better. So I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to zoom in so I can see her skin, and I'm going to use the spot healing tool. The spot healing tool is so great for blemishes. Her complexion is pretty good, but she does have this wrinkle in her forehead that I know that she doesn't like, so I'm just going to very carefully take off that wrinkle and then sort of find any other little blemishes or things that we might want to get rid of. The other thing is, in this particular photo, there's sort of these stray hairs that look a little bit funny, so I can get rid of the stray hairs with that spot healing brush, which is kind of nice. Make sure that the size of your brush is large enough to cover the area. If you don't, weird things happen. Sometimes, and do little bits at a time. Okay, see how this part here is a little bit, sometimes it works better than others. So I'm going to stop there for now, but you could see how, you know, spending a little bit more time there would work. Oh, and there's these funny stray hairs down here too. Boop. Like I said, small areas is better, or else you start seeing weird things appear, weird patterns in your photo. Okay. You know what, one thing I will say, sometimes it's nice to increase the saturation of eye color. Her eyes are not, you know, they look kind of like hazel. They actually, in real life, they look kind of blue. But what you can do is this tool right here has a sponge tool, and you can actually saturate and desaturate. So we could maybe desaturate her under eye area a little bit, and this is the intensity up here. So let's see what happens if I desaturate under here. It's making, oh, it's actually just desaturating the color. But we could saturate eye color, and sometimes that is a nice effect. I think for this particular eye color, you're not going to see much an effect, but if you had green or blue or brown eyes, you could really saturate the color. If there were teeth, that's when you want to desaturate, to take the yellow off of the teeth. It'll make them look whiter. And then, let's see, if we do want, you have under eye shadows that you want to get rid of, you can dodge potentially can take away, oh yeah, look at that, taking a little bit of that shadow area off. Again, you want just a very light touch with this, but you can experiment with that. Okay, have fun.